What's good, everyone? Welcome back to My First Kicks. This is, and might be, episode 178. There's been a mix-up. I got to wait for this approval for the other episode that I recorded here to get dropped. But enough of that. So this might be 178 and this might be 179. So I'm just going to cover myself with saying this might be 179 as well. But this week I bring to you one of the current good, I don't know how to say it without glazing you, but one of the one of the current best photographers in the sneaker game, to be honest. I think you do you obviously do other things as well, but yeah, Jordan Kaiser.
Yeah, you said it right the first time. Yeah, a lot of people say Kith, but yeah, it's Kaiser.
Welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said just now, I think I hit you up. Well, first, let's talk about how
this is a funny story.
Yeah, how we first met with each other.
No, it's funny. I was telling when I told my wife I was doing the podcast, I told her, I was like, I love talking to people. Mm-hmm. When we met, we interacted and stuff, but it's kind of awkward, like the podcast thing. But I was just like, when I met you, the energy was so good, it's so pure. I was like, I don't have much, you know what it is? I don't have much to say. You know what I mean? I take photos, so on, but your energy was so good. That first interaction was so strong. I was like, nah, I gotta do my man's podcast. So when you reached out, I was like, we absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't follow him on Twitter, he's a good follow. I think you're a great follow, but you do talk your shit on Twitter.
I guess put it this way: if you expected me to put out stuff on the timeline every day, don't. No, I'll randomly think of something. It's like, oh, this is a random tirade I have for today, or I don't like getting in back and forth, right, healthy discussion, right. I think we were going around about the undefeated forwards, if we can have a conversation about it, cool. I'm all for that, but I'm not arguing against anybody's viewpoints. That's not me on Twitter. I like to believe that I have experience, that maybe some other people don't have, and aren't see things that people aren't necessarily privy to. Yeah, that's where I try to put my opinion out there, but I'm not look at me, look at me, so it's I guess I'm a good follow for the photography and sneaker talk, but
yeah. I mean, I still think I follow you strictly off of just following you. I learned about your photography after. So I was just like, oh, you seem cool peoples, And then, our first interaction when you were like, I don't wear enough sneakers. And I said, you just got to go outside. And I was like, I hope that this come off snarky. And then you were like, nah, man, you're good. I was just like, I feel like everything. Because the one thing about being online or just writing or text or something like that is somebody can read it wrong.
Oh, of course. Interpretation. You know what I mean? I like to think I'm pretty easygoing, Don't take anything out of unless you're saying it with some oomph behind it or something. Nah, it's all good.
No, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate you for saying I was really good energy, because I was when we met at Extra Butter, I was I don't know if it's not I turn it on, but people always tell me my social battery is endless. But to me, in my head, I feel I'll be yeah, nah, I'm about to get out.
Yeah, right. I see ya. I mean, I get it. I just be observing, right? So I'm with you, Like I said, I'm not over. I want to talk to anybody that want to talk to me, right? I don't ever want to come off as standoffish or anything, but sometimes I'm just mad quiet. You know what I mean? I met someone earlier this week and they hit me and they're like, hey, yo, sorry if I felt flat, and I'm like, all good, bro. I feel I give off that same sort of vibe. You know what I mean? That's why I said when we met, it was just very, very funny. Happened to looked over my shoulder, seeing my IG logo.
I was being a weirdo. But yeah, I was I remember I saw you pull up your logo on your phone, and I was I know that logo.
Yeah, that was so funny. It's just a small world, small world. But.
No, yeah, we'll cut out the other part of that interaction of that accompanied that, but yeah. but shout out to Jamiersen, because basically without him this wouldn't have happened in person too.
Yeah, nah, Jamiersen, man, yo, last night was crazy. That's it. Like, right. Like I just don't go outside. I'm married. We have a little puppy, you know what I mean? Like, and I live in Jersey, you know what I mean? So like to get me into New York for an event, it has to actually be something I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't drink, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I should say I don't drink a lot, you know what I mean? So I'm not popping up for like the open bar at the event for like an hour or two that's people's thing. And like, if I lived in New York, I absolutely would be on that type of time, but I don't because my lifestyle is very different.
Right. Yeah.
So like Jamiersen have an event, like, okay, cool. I'm going to pull up. And I'm always happy that I did. Like, right. Like, you know what I mean? Like we met, I saw a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a while, met some other new people. What more can you ask for? Like when I leave the house and I'm like, oh, I'm going outside. Like that's success for me. Like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like meet a couple people, see a couple people. Always got the camera on me, you know what I mean? Like take some flicks. Like, what more can you ask for? You know, like I mean, good vibes. Like, and it was cool because I have this thing where I feel like people don't remember me, like remember meeting me. Like, oh, we met like a couple weeks ago at a party, and it's nothing like I don't ever take it personal, huh?
I'm with you on that, by the way.
I never take it personal. But then, like some of the people that I met at Jamiersen's last event, I saw at this one. And as dumb as it sounds, like being instantly like recognized, like Bernie instantly recognized me. I was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? We sat there chopping it up for like a little bit at Jamiersen's Extra Butter event. So stuff like that makes me like more likely to introduce myself and to try to put myself out there. Like, all right, maybe people do remember like meeting me. And that might sound like really stupid to other people, but like I'm a pretty plain guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like obviously into sneakers and stuff, but like I like nice plain clothing. So I'm not flashy, no tattoos, no jewelry, you know what I mean? So like I don't stand out in a crowd. You know what I mean? Like I don't look for like that attention, you know? So like that I think is what plays into my idea that like I'm just a normal dude that people don't remember. Like, which again, like I don't take personal. It's not like, oh man, like it just puts me in like a weird spot where like I don't necessarily put myself out there as much as I should because I don't want to like introduce myself to somebody like two times is cool. Like a third time, I'm like, yo, like, am I that forgettable? Or are you actively trying to like act like forget me? You know, like
in these spaces, because it's like, well, it's interesting because I feel like your following comes from you being behind the camera and like your work, right? Yeah. So it's like you don't really like be like, hey, this is me, this is my life. You're just like, This is the work. This is the work. This is the work. This is the craziest stuff, the crazy stuff that you do.
That's it. Like y'all are here for like the work. Like that's what I want you to see. Like I've gotten better about like being a little like forward facing, you know what I mean? Like a little BTS from a shoot, like stuff like that. A quick little photo dump here and there. But I want people to come to my page and see the work. You know what I mean? Like I'm not an influencer, you know what I mean? Like nobody like looking for me to sell things. Like, you know what I mean? There's no reason for me to like really be out there. I want you to see the work. That's what's more important to me than to see me. Yeah. And if you see me, I'm probably wearing olive pants, a black shirt, and like a black hat. All jokes aside, or like all black. You know what I mean? So I'm like literally like, yo, there's nothing to see. Like, and I don't say that like in a self-deprecating way. Like I'm not out here trying to get fits off. Like I'm just trying to look good. You know what I mean? So like I said, it's just boring. Long story short, I'm boring.
I mean, you said a lot, and you also said you're boring. I don't think you're boring at all.
No, nobody will come out and be like, "Oh, this dude's like, man, boring." You know what I mean? Like people.
But I think it's the because this is what I was trying. I guess I was trying to say where it's like when it comes to like the sneaker community or like streetwear or just being part of this culture that we are actively participating in. Yeah. Like it's always one of the things is like you gotta be outside. You gotta be outside, and I don't think it's like learning how to maneuver it and not seem like, hey, remember me. I feel like that's always the best way to do it.
Who wants to do that?
Yeah,
like begging.
There's a lot of people
like begging people to like remember. Like you also have to be realistic about like who it is you're wondering if they remember you were asking. You know, how many people do they interact with every day? How many people do they meet every day? Right, you know what I mean? Like with that in mind, you know what I mean? Like, can you expect like that? That's why it's easy where I'm just like, I don't know. Do we have we had an interaction? I could never forget you after that. Like, you know what I mean? That's cool. But like if it's just, you introduced me to a couple people last night, you know what I mean? A couple other people introduced me to people, and it's like, I want to think that they would remember me. Maybe not though. You know what I mean? Like
I always bank on they don't. There's lower stakes if you
certain things
happens.
like that. And again, it's no offense, not like nothing personal, but like that just creates a vibe of where I'm kind of like a little standoffish. So it's been good that I've gotten myself outside a couple of Jamiersen's events. I went to the New York versus New York like run. You know, like I try to get myself outside.
Well, I mean, I think it's COVID, you know, changed a lot of people's perception of like, should we be online all the time, or should we be outside all the time? Should we be online outside all the time, or should we be outside online all the time? Like it's there's no healthy balance for some people. And for me, I mean, I kind of do what you do, right? Like this is it. Like I'll be like, I want to have these conversations, but I'm not actively being like, I want to review sneakers every week. I'm trying to, like, you know, it was like I had this moment of like a couple of years of just like trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this. And this is it. But this has always been it, right?
Like when you say this, like this space?
No, just like podcasting.
Okay.
And like, you know.
Oh, okay. Like where you wanted to kind of take the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, or like, how do I get eyes on this, right? And it was always of like trial and error of like, oh, do I got to be like a TikTok personality to make this happen? And then it was just like, I was like, that's not me. Like, I've always been this person that was just like, I never, when during the heyday of sneakers online, like, you know, of like, you know, posting every week your fits, your sneakers and stuff like that. I was never that person. I was always just the commenter being like, yo, those are fire, you know, like, cause I never wanted that attention. I have my, like, I'd rather talk to people more than share the sneakers, the pictures.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, that's it. Like where it's weird for me, like, right. Like, I got into taking pictures of sneakers because I was just bored. I was just like, yo, like, I just want to take pictures of my own sneakers and post them and cool. Like I started a blog. That's like what it was. Like I would just take pictures and upload them to the blog and be like, this shoe came out. Here's what I think about it, you know? And it just kind of transitioned from there, like with the camera, and I got more into it. Like it was never like, oh, you know, I'm going to take pictures and like get on. Like, you know, like, sometimes I like don't know what's next because the point that I'm at feels like surreal sometimes.
Yeah. Like, and before we get into that,
okay,
well, I got to ask you the question that I ask everybody each week, because we're like 10, 15 minutes in.
All good.
And that question is, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers you absolutely needed to have?
Okay, I don't know. Everyone's answer is obviously different. So for me, like I don't remember honestly, like being in the shoes like heavy as like a young kid. I was a skateboarder, like a skateboarder, snowboarder. So like DC shoes, like Lakai, that was like my entry into like what felt like caring about sneakers.
Yeah.
The first
for performance or because of the signature or who's riding it?
At that time, probably a little bit of both, like more aesthetics, like probably just based off of like the look, you know, like I skated. I don't know what you would consider decent at skateboarding. Everyone's got a different perception of it, but like I was like,
listen, for me, you could kick push, you know, then no, I'm just saying for me, because
that's what I'm saying. Like everyone like perception is different, but
I can ollie but never actually move the board. How crazy is that?
All right, I mean that the moving can be hard.
Yeah,
like that's where the balance like really comes into play. So I get that. That's like where like I started paying attention to sneakers. The first pair of sneakers that I can remember just being like, yo, I have to have these. Nike SB Dunk Low J-Pack.
Hey, okay.
What, probably 05, 06?
Yeah, pink box.
Definitely pink box. I want to say 05, maybe 06. I graduated 07. So it's like high school for me.
Yeah.
That was the one. Like at that point, like I can remember being like vaguely familiar with like Nike SB and having a couple pairs of, I think I had a couple pairs of the team edition.
Okay.
Before like I got onto the Dunk, and I'm from upstate New York. There's a mall, Cross Skates Mall. There was a skate shop called TSX, and they were the only place for a long time you could get Nike SBs within a couple hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Skate shop. Walk in the back road, literally one of them just sitting on the counter, just being like, "The fuck is that? Like, I need that." You know what I mean? At the mall with one of my friends and his dad, and I was just like, "Yo, like, I need this shoe. Like, can you like loan me the $100?" I worked for his dad. His dad owned a restaurant. Yeah. So like, "Yo, can you loan me the $100?" Like, I just didn't bring like money on you, and that was the one. So fast forward, I did like the Grail Tales thing on the sneakers app, and that was the shoe that I did because I had actually bought a pair probably like 2 or 3 years ago now, like. To just have, I was like, I gotta have like a fresh pair. Now. But that's the one. That's the shoe.
I like the subtle. I did a Grail Tales on the sneakers app.
I have a friend that works on a lot of like the content for the sneakers app. So hit me up like, "Hey, would you be interested?" I'm like, "Come on." Of course.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
imagine.
So picture me in my apartment trying to film myself talk like. It took
how long that took. Yeah, I was gonna say how long that took. They send you, do they? Oh, or Dave, you're like, "Oh, you got the stuff, so just."
So that one, like Grail Tales, you just like have to take a couple pictures of the shoe and feel like record yourself. I think when they do,
what's in your closet?
The one, yeah, where you show like 5 shoes. I'm blanking
I think that's
on
probably
the name.
what's in your closet, right?
Is that what? Okay, that one, I think they send you like a kit, so you're like lit up nice and like good, you know, proper lighting and such. But
I will please somebody call me. I'll do one.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, who doesn't want to see themselves pop up on the sneakers apps? You know, catch plenty of L's. That's the big W. That's the W everybody looking for, right? Like keep the shoes. Like feature me on the app, man. Like,
and then like I mean, J-Packs were one of the pairs that I've always wanted also because I'm a big pink box. Well, silver box first for me. I'm a silver box guy first, and then pink boxes, and then black box, and then. But yeah, J-Packs were one of the like. It was that the Shimizus, the J-Packs, and then my grails are the Huffs. If I could ever get a pair of Huff highs, I probably would be like, all right,
stuff is hard to come by now.
Yeah, exactly. And so the one great thing, I don't know if you were on nsb.org.
Of course.
Yeah. So I was, that's where my love started of like being on those forums.
That's where my love started. That's where my heart got broken for the first time. I bought a pair of Send Helps from a kid in high school.
Yeah.
Posted them on nsb.org. Like, oh, can't wait. They were like, "Yo, dog, these are fake as shit." I was like, "What?" Like, this was probably right around the time I like really, really like started getting into dunks and like, that sent me down like a wormhole. Like that's like got on a pair of fake dunks, like really, really like made sure like dunks was my thing.
Somebody on nsb.org sold you fake dunks?
Nah, kid I went to school with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like at the time, again, like just getting into like Nike SB, probably maybe had like a few pairs of dunks like at that time. I didn't know any better. I posted them. Dudes are killing me. Like,
I probably killed you. It was probably me on there telling
you. Probably, bro. Probably. But I'm not mad. Like, listen, like.
Was it the one? Because my bad. Was it the one? Okay, my bad. Was it the one that had the, like you had like skinny laces? Was it like skinny laces on it? Because I know I was cutting somebody up. Like, I remember
honestly. Like, and like looking, like, I think they looked pretty good. Like, I'm sure if you put them in my hand now, I'd immediately be like, "Yo, like what the fuck," you know? But at the time, like I said, being so new to it, that's it. You know what I mean? Like for me, again, we're in a different period now. Like, but
I mean, fakes now, because fakes back then was like you could tell.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I remember getting a pair of Space Jams. So what? Space Jams came out in 09, I think, right?
I think so.
So this was probably...
Was it... No. Was there an 06 pair? I feel like there was an 06 pair.
No, I'm almost positive
it was 09?
Yeah. Because... Yeah, I think it's 09. But I remember buying a pair like a couple years later, like when I like got on, like, oh, like these are awesome. And then getting another pair of Space Jams like a year later and being like, oh, this first one I have is definitely got to be fake. Like it just like looked like after getting, you know what it was? I got Cool Grays.
Yeah.
So it was like what Space Jams came out the year before Cool Grays, I think. So maybe it was 2010.
Yeah.
Regardless, I got Cool Grays. got another pair of Space Jams, and having those 2 pairs of 11s and then the first pair of Space Jams, I'm like, oh, these gotta be fake.
But how'd you get, somebody sold you them? You're not getting them from the store?
Yeah, no, those I remember getting online somewhere.
From Pick Your Shoes?
No, not Pick Your Shoes. I know, put it this way, I know where it's from. Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you I'll tell you where it's from, not on here though, because I don't know who's attached. And again, it was new territory to me at the time. So like, put it this way, I ended up giving them to like one of my best friends, and I was like, yo, you want these? And he's like, you're just gonna give them? I'm like, they're fake. He's like, no way. And like at that time, I had already been like well known enough within my friends. They're like, yo, how do you have a pair of fake Space Jams? And they're like you got. And I'm like, dog, I got. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, so I'd like to believe I hope everyone hasn't got, but I'm sure most, like when you're at the level we are, been in it 10, 15 years, done some trades through the mail. So, you know what I mean? Like, what, bro? Sending money orders? NSB, like, you know what I mean? Like crazy shit. People nobody,
I mean, I don't think if I talked about it on here, but you don't know, you are not a seasoned vet unless you've done a corgi shoe transaction.
Oh my God. Man. Different dude, but wow. Like you talk about just like for years and years. Dude just kept pulling out like shit that nobody else had.
Stuff, bro. The crazy. I remember just be like, you'd be on his Instagram and be like, how does he have these just the entire time?
Having the foresight, I get, like, you know what I mean? To think like you're buying 01 Jordan 1s. You know
holding
what I mean?
on to
like,
them. Yeah.
What, 30, 40 a pair and just sitting on them. You know what I mean? Like, how did you... How?
I don't even know. And I mean,
somebody looked at him like this is the dumbest investment and dumbest use of money, and he just laughed to the bank.
Yeah.
And then,
well,
kind of disappeared. Is he like?
No, he's like. Well, this is what I was gonna say, because actually, from what I learned, and I don't know if it was like an interview or like something, or because I know I messaged him on Instagram one time after his appearance on the Complex Sneaker podcast, and I was just like, yo, you know, shout out to you, because I know that he does a lot of like homeless outreach work in LA. So when I messaged him, I was telling him the story of when he sold me my 2013 infrared 95s, infrared 90s.
Okay.
And I'm telling him the story, and I'm looking back at like the emails and stuff, like, and he's like, like aggressively yelling at me in these emails.
Oh, sure.
But he had like
no nonsense.
No, he wasn't.
Don't waste that man's
time. He went from struggling with addiction to helping homeless. So like he was like selling sneakers to fund his habit. Then he was like, you know what? I'm gonna get clean. I'm gonna help other people get clean.
Okay.
And now he sells sneakers to help fund that.
That's
very dope, man.
I mean, you hear like an elusive dude. I think that podcast is like one of the only ones like could ever find of him. But
my goal is to get him on here one time.
That would be sick. He's obviously like, or was, you know, tapped in with Supreme. So he had like Supreme. You know what I mean? And like, go for him. Now that you say that, I guess that's sort of like the story sounds vaguely familiar. I want to say like, yo, I thought I remembered like a story about him like going to jail or something, but maybe I'm confusing that with I don't want to put that on him either. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that I'm conflating like that and like what you're talking about with the addiction.
And he was on trying to help before Skid Row became like crazy Skid Row.
I mean, you gotta think like.
And I don't know if you've been out there.
What year did IG start?
2000 and like.
Is it 2000? I want to say 12, but I think that's when I joined and I was late to the party. Either way, you can figure he's probably on there a good, 8, 10 years? You know what I mean? Like, just think about how much product you have to have stashed away somewhere to be able to come out with stuff consistently.
I mean, that foresight is unbelievable, but I definitely wanted to ask you, like, so, I mean, you touched on starting that blog and getting into sneaker photography, but like, where was like your turning point where you were like, oh, I can do this?
Okay, good question. I don't know that I have like an exact answer. Like, right. So I was kind of doing my own thing, like taking photos for myself and, you know, a couple like little things like sneaker shows or stuff like that for the homies. And a dude that I knew from like the White Plains area. There used to be a shop there called it was called Heist at one point, and then they changed the name to History of New York. And
I think I've been there.
Yeah, it's now I think called Closet or like something like that.
Kick's Closet, is it?
They sell a lot of hats.
Hats.
They still have like it's a boutique, like kind of like
a
boutique. They, you know, all like Nike, Jordan and stuff. But the guy that owns it now, I believe, owns another shop that's like more focused on hats. But yeah, the walk-in closet. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, right on Mamaroneck Ave in White Plains. But long story short, dude sent me an IG story. Hey, they were looking for a photographer. I was actually laid up. I had knee surgery, and was like coming off of that. So I had reached out to them, and I was just like, yo, like, you know, I'd be interested in doing this. And it was a 2-hour drive for me. You know what I mean? Like from it's White Plains. I'm from, like I said, I'm from upstate. So I came down, talked to them, did that. Did that for about a year, and that was like really like, I guess like my first experience like working with like a store and stuff, and it was cool. Like, yeah, it was cool. I'd love to tell you like I learned what I taught myself in that scenario. Like it was like a very small, like kind of like mom and pop operation. But long story short, from there at the time, like one of my good friends was shooting like all like lookbook and like on model photography for Kith. Had a little footwear experience. So yeah, reached out to me. It was like, hey, like Kith's looking for a footwear photographer, like something you're interested in, like throw your name out there. Transition into interview with Kith. Did that. And once I started like working like at Kith, you know what I mean? Like you start seeing your stuff hit the Kith Instagram, like, which probably sounds very cringy to say like now, but like as a photographer, like you gotta figure like honestly, like I wasn't even like really like 2 years in before I got like the job at Kith. Very, very lucky. Like that changed the way that I like worked. You know what I mean? Like that's an eye-opening experience. Like I said, like very small, like mom and pop shop operation. Like, hey, whatever you give to us for photos, it's gonna work. Like, well, you know, we're gonna make it happen. Then Kith, it's like, these are our guidelines and standards. It's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, so that, there's like, a specific look to it and everything.
Introduced me to like a real like professional world. And yeah, I would say that getting that, beyond getting the job, like being in the job and like finding some level of success or like comfort, you know what I mean? Like where you're like, yeah, I belong here.
Yeah. Did you go to school for photography or you?
No,
you just
self-taught.
Self-taught,
man.
And this is where you tell me like you're like, yeah, I'm just a finance major.
No, I didn't go to. I did like 1 year of college. Like I was really into skateboarding and snowboarding. Like with that comes like skateboarding and snowboarding, like films, you know. And I mean, when I would snowboard, I would always bring a camera with me and like shoot the homies. And like I had some friends, you know, that were like pretty good. Same thing with skating, and like where. That was kind of the passion. Like out of high school, I visited an art school in Colorado, and I was like, "This is it." Like, and I didn't end up going, and kind of, you know, kept taking pictures like here and there, but nothing serious. And Instagram came around, and I remember the dude's name, Andrew Furness. I think his Instagram was Blood Runs Black. And he would shoot like a lot of runners. Like I think it was like Canadian or European or some shit. But long story short, this dude's photos, I just like that stands out from that time. Like that was on Instagram. He ended up selling a Nikon camera, which I'm ashamed to admit. At one point I owned a Nikon, but
I like Nikons.
It's a running joke. Like people, I shoot like everything Canon pretty much. You know, with digital, it's all Canon. Yeah. There's like this like stupid like petty like
it's the Bloods and Crips of cameras.
That's it. Whatever works for you. You know what I mean? Like your preference. That's it. Like you get into like a system like the Canon system for 5, 6, 7 years, and you're like, do I really want to try like?
You already pay for the lenses. Sony. The lenses are,
that's the big thing. When you start like investing in glass, where like, you know, some of these lenses you can have forever. If the mount doesn't change, like why would you then want to sell that and then have to buy? You're gonna rebuy the same lenses just from a different brand, right? No, I'm good on that.
And then you'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna switch to a Leica. And then you're like, all right, now everything's extremely expensive.
Yeah, that's a step up I'm not ready for yet, but soon enough.
You don't want to be the next Leica beast?
If I could afford, man, those are not cheap cameras.
I don't know how he shoots all his. I don't know if you know who Leica Beast is or you follow.
Yeah,
it's been around for years. Like,
so it's funny. Yeah. There's a local camera store so I live in Jersey, right? There's a spot called Bergen County Camera in Westwood, New Jersey. Like very much like your mom and pop's like camera store.
Yeah.
Like, and the biggest display section they have in there is Leica. And that's what people walk in there and buy. You know what I mean? So I have the Fuji X100V. I actually bought it from them. So when the new version came out, I was like, oh, you know, do I get like top of the pre-order list or whatever? And like, no, that's not how it works. But long story short, I was in there the other day picking some stuff. I actually rented a lens and I'd asked them, I'm like, you know, like, how's the pre-orders going for the Fuji? They're like, we've gotten like 4 of them. They're like, you know, we're upgrading people to more Leicas than anything. Like people aren't waiting for the Fuji, you know? And I was like, well, you got people with a couple dollars. You know, that I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, let me just buy the camera that's like 2 or 3 times as expensive. I'm like, I'm pretty sure if we all could do it, we would be doing it. Like, I mean,
it's wild because, like, you know, it's so funny because you just made me think about. So I was I didn't major in photography, but I took photography.
Okay.
So like, because I went to school for print production management. I talked about it on here. It's archaic. Now it's dead. So my degree dies with it. But
kind of wild.
Yeah. But
that happened at a college upstate. The college just closed, and people are like, yo, like, do I like not have a degree anymore? Like, does my dad go with it? Like, you know, like,
nah, Sally Mae's gonna come.
Yeah, she coming. She coming to collect.
She's coming to collect for sure. And so it was always funny because when you learn about cameras and you learn how much they cost, and then you just walk around Times Square and you just see these tourists with full DSLRs just around their neck, and you're just like, what is like, you're using this for vacation photos? And for years
taking some of the worst photos you've ever seen on it.
You're just hitting auto on everything. You're just like, there you go, all right, get in the picture,
you know. And this is like me like thinking negatively. Like I often think about that. I'm like, yo, like, you don't hear about people's cameras getting like snatched, but I always think about that because I'm so nonchalant. Like when I was shooting something in the city the other day, I have like a digital and a film like with me, and I'm like setting one down on a ledge and like walking, and I'm just like, this is not smart. like what are we like? What am I doing here? Like, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, well,
it's expensive.
Yes, it's expensive to have that as like your travel camera, especially now that phones are basically it. Like you're gonna be shooting in RAW unless you're actually gonna be editing this in Lightroom and like super nerded out just now. Sorry, but you're gonna be taking the time to edit this. You're not. You're just gonna be like, all right, I took the pictures. They're on auto. Here you go.
Oh yeah, that's where like film. You know what I mean? Like I've been shooting a lot of film like lately. People probably annoyed because I'm like, oh, I've been shooting a lot of film. You know, film this, like film that. You know, like cool, dude. Like, but
it's the most expensive version of the art.
Yeah. But like also I guess like I don't know the best way to describe, like I have fun with it. You know what I mean? That's it. Like, you know, I shoot a lot of like I love shooting like footwear, you know what I mean? Like don't get me wrong, that's kind of like what got me into photography, like not what got me into photography, but like what really set me off on like my journey. Footwear is great, you know what I mean? But when you're shooting dozens of like, you know what I mean? Like, so like when I was working at GOAT, right? You're shooting dozens of shoes a week.
My God, where have you not worked at this point?
Yeah, but like you figure you're shooting the same 8-10 angles of every sneaker, 20 shoes a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the job. Like most of the time, like that, like, you know, in that role at GOAT, like that's the job. Like you're creating some social assets to break it up and stuff, which is cool. But like at the end of the day, super monotonous.
Right, yeah.
Am I extremely grateful that I take pictures of sneakers for a living and that's what I get paid to do? Yes, because other people, you know what I mean? Like just be working jobs, you know what I mean? This feels like good. But then like you do that 9 to 5, like think about picking a camera up outside of there, feels like a daunting task.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to carry this big thing around. So like for me, that's where I got into like alternative stuff. Like the Fuji was like an interesting option where it's like, oh, this is a nice like little camera to carry. I'm not the dude you're gonna see with DSLR over his shoulder. You see me out, point and shoot camera, or like I've tried to bring the Fuji out more, like, but trying to learn to get better with film and like navigate that, like I try to shoot as much film as possible. So the Fuji is always gonna take good images. You're always gonna be able to emulate the film look with like the Fuji. So it's cool, you know what I mean? It serves its purpose, but the film is so much more hands-on. Like that's really like where I started with this, was the monotony of like the product photography on white and flats and editing flats and stuff, where it's just like, all right, cool. Like, let me go like do something that feels like tangible. Like it's fun. It's enjoyable. Like that's like people getting annoyed with me, you know what I mean? But like every time I see a friend, like I brought the camera because I'm like, yo, I want to take a picture of you like when we're done here. You know what I mean? Like that's me being like the annoying friend. Like, yo, let me take your picture. Let me take your picture. I love it. Nobody, you know what I mean? And like most people do, you know, like, but some people are just kind of like, and I respect it. You know what I mean? Like being a photographer, because I ask so many people for their picture, I'm always, if like one of the homies like, oh, let me grab your photo, I'm always going to oblige. Definitely not. Like I understand people like being like, nah, I'm good.
Really? So I guess
I never take it I never take it like they don't want me to take their picture.
Right. Yeah.
Some people like one of my boys, I do a lot of work with him, and I always take his picture, and it's like my goal to get off pictures that of himself that he likes. Like, I mean, because I'll do it. Like you know what I mean? Like
because it's interesting because like I'm not a person that takes a picture of myself very often. Like obviously I got this video. This is gonna last whatever until YouTube goes down because of I don't know, you know, Trump's in office or something. But it's just interesting because I've always had photographer friends. Like I have one of my closest friends right now. He works at Wall Street Journal, and every time we hang out, he also brings out the film camera and shoots. So it's like I've been around photographers. I'm always just like, let's fucking do it. Like let's take a picture. Yeah,
that's it. Like we live in a time where social media, you know, and all this. So I'm just like, why wouldn't you want some cool pictures of yourself, you know? So
but I mean, I appreciate you. That's why I changed immediately when you sent me that picture.
I like that. That's like, you know what I mean? Like I knew a person that used to have like a running tally of profile pictures that they had, like just as like a joke to themselves. I'm like, no, that's cool, man. Like that's right. That's the mark of like, I guess like what you would consider is a good photo of you, where you're like, oh, the first picture, you know, everyone gonna see, or anyone that interacts with me and my page gonna see this picture. That's
you're the first impression that they get. And like, you know, I was really honored that you were like, yo, let me take a picture. I was like,
of course.
Yo, I was like, that's crazy.
It. Like,
I mean, like, take my picture.
That's it. Like, right. I look at like to take anybody's like picture, you know what I mean? Like, I hope it brings like some level of like joy to like, oh, someone wants to take my picture, I want my picture taken. But it's never like I said, I'm never like, oh, you know, you should want me to take your picture. You know what I mean? Like, nah, like, you know what I mean? I just think it's fun. Like I have fun, you know what I mean? Especially with the film. Like the film is like really fun because it's like, hey, this may come out, or this like I may not have a photo for you. Like, you know, if I did good, I got some heat coming your way. But like I also could have botched this.
You get some ghost. You get a ghost image.
Ooh man. So Jamiersen had hit me up to do the Sweet Chick shoot, and we shot it in the restaurant. So I knew I was gonna need flash. So I was like, all right, cool. You know, that's where the film can get a little bit dicey. Like, depending on the scenario, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm gonna shoot it digital. I gotta make sure I got like what he needs, but I'm gonna shoot film too. So I shot 2 rolls of film. Get it back. And I was mad excited. So the place that I use for my scans, they always send by 6 o'clock. And it was like 6:15, they hadn't sent it. I'm like, did they forget about me? So I hate to be that guy, but I called because I was excited to see it. They're like, oh, yo, we'll send it over right now. They sent it over. I had the camera on the wrong shutter speed. So man. Like with the medium format and like a lot of film cameras, the flash will only sync up to like 1/60th of a second, which is super slow. So your boy shot 2 rolls of film, got the scans back, and it's all chopped in half because the shutter like it didn't sync like properly. So, and I was so hyped. I was like, yo. Leaving there, I was like, man, I think these are gonna go crazy. I think the film is gonna be it. Right? And like that's it. So I shoot like a lot of film and digital, like when I'm doing shoots, and hoping that I can produce the images that I want on film, but that's not always the case, you know? So I was like, you know what? I think we got the film unlocked. I got the scans back and I hit the space bar to blow the first one up. And I was like, no, it hit me at that point that I was just moving so quick. So like, there's things too, like film it, like as frustrating. You gotta think, bro. It's like two $20 rolls of film and two $20, literally like a waste of like $80 to $100.
$20 is film is $20 now?
Yeah, depending on what you use. Jesus. You know what I mean? Like I would say, and
Kodak's done
that's
too,
it, like,
right?
Well, so like if you use Kodak film is expensive. I mean, I guess put it this way: a lot of people are probably more experimental than I am. Again, I hate to say like go with like what's popular because that's not the case. I go with like what works, like, right? Because I don't have like the background in film for like working with film to know like, you know, this stock for this stock for this. So I'm like, I'm learning, but I'm starting with the stuff that I know everybody else uses. You know what I mean? There's a reason they use it. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's these like, I was actually just with someone who was showing me, I have it in my phone. It was a Fuji stock. It's like, it's black and white. It's like, but it's really cool because like the highlights like come through like really silverish.
Yeah, the contrast on those are crazy.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's like really cool. And like it was like ocean photos, like that were like very kind of like a lot of like blown out highlights and stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. I see the purpose of like the use in that. Like I'm not experienced enough to like really speak on like a lot of that, like between different stocks. Like obviously like ISO, different, you know, different sensitivities for different things, but figuring it out, you know, it's a lot of trial and error, but that's what's fun.
That's fun. Yeah, that's the fun
like
part.
As frustrating as it's like the sweet chick thing is, and having no photos to show for it, it's just like, oh well, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna remember next time to slow down and double check like those settings.
This is true. I mean, you know, when you're moving everything, it was really cool. I love the shots that you put up for that were used for the sandwich. It was really cool, man. Cool.
That was very, very fun.
Was that your first time shooting food?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I mean, granted, it wasn't like super in depth. You know what I mean? But
you use the toothpicks and. You know?
I mean, I shouldn't say in depth. Like they went crazy, like you know what I mean, kind of piecing the sandwich together so it like looked good. But in terms of, I guess like it wasn't like super like high level like commercial, like a McDonald's shoot. Like a McDonald's shoot,
you always hear that's everybody's
that
always
hamburger's like a million different pieces, and it's probably shot in a bunch of different plates and stuff. Like
or like what is it like? Or like Pizza Hut where they're like, they mix the cheese with glue so that they get the pull.
So I had the pleasure of working with like what I would consider like really high level commercial photographer that worked and did a lot of like ads and stuff like cocktail ads you would see in like Cosmo and cosmetics. And I assisted her for a few months and I learned more. So talk about learning. I learned more in that few months than I did in like almost a year at Go because it's just the same job over and over. You know what I mean? Like this, like I've seen that. So like the drop, you know what I mean? Like dropping drops out of stuff like it. The intricate things that you would crazy toothpick and stuff into place. Like it was really impressive, but it opens your eyes. Like, okay, this is how a lot of this is done. And even how much I could take away from that and apply to sneaker photography. And like really any aspect, there's really like levels to the photography.
Yeah.
So, bro, it's pretty wild.
So like, all right. Because I need to know the places you've been at and the stuff you've done. But like, so you started at Kith, and that's where you started at the walk-in closet.
So like, you know, like I have a retail background. Like I always worked retail. So like I worked at Zoomies, you know what I mean? I worked at Champ Sports. So like that's like I always met a lot of people like working in the malls. You know, I was always a sneaker guy. Like for a long time, I could be your sneaker plug. You know what I mean? Like
that's how you presented it.
No. If you knew me, if you're like the homie, you know what I mean, and like you can come get a pair of sneakers from like the Champs I worked. Like it was talking different times. You know what I mean? Like very, very different times.
Yeah.
But that's like kind of like what I would say like kind of set me in like this like on the sneaker path, like that direction. Like anything kind of like adjacent to like sneakers and footwear. And like I said, like the first like little gig. Little mom and pop shop and
then that ballooned into Kith. But like were you like part of the photography team at Kith or were you
so my experience at Kith was like very interesting because again, I mean, they've grown exponentially since I was there. It's been about 5 or 6 years since I worked there, but I believe, if I remember correctly at the time, Tyler was the only photographer, just like overloaded him. So I originally got brought on to do women's and kids footwear. At the time, they didn't sell kids footwear online.
Right.
It was just
it was only the store. Was it the kids store yet? No, that didn't open. Were you in? You didn't work out of Atrium, like you?
No. I remember Atrium, but no. So. I worked there pretty much right after the Lafayette flagship opened. And I mean, so that was cool. That was, again, like a crazy, crazy learning experience. You know what I mean? Like, you know, working with Tyler was great. Like, so that's the thing, like, right? There's levels to everything.
Right.
Within like our realm, kind of, without going, you know, without starting to get into like bigger agencies and people that like are shooting like Nike's like images and like e-com stuff. Like at this level, like Tyler's absolutely the best person shooting footwear.
Is that Arab Lincoln?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Arab Lincoln. Yep. Tyler Mansour. Yeah. Mansour, I believe, is the proper pronunciation. But
because you were dropping it like I was like he's definitely talking about Arab Lincoln.
Yeah. Nope, Arab Lincoln. That's what, you know, everone knows him as. But man, like he's the guy. Like, right, that style is so unique to him. So it's like I feel very fortunate to work and learn from him. Yeah. It's also like a double-edged sword because like his style, I would say, is very unique to him. And it's obviously very emulated. But nobody can do it better than he can do it.
Right, yeah.
So, of course, like, as someone who worked side by side and, like, learned, like, some of the, I guess, like, the most important, like, things that I learned were, like, working with him and, like, you know, just attention to, and at Kith, like, attention to detail, like, little things like dust on a shoe, like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that, like, I can think of all these like little things that I learned along the way that I feel like have kind of like lead me to where I'm at now. But I lost my train of thought.
So then you went from Kith working with
so I worked with Tyler, with Tyler, like very like, you know what I mean, like eye-opening experience. Like, so the biggest thing at Kith was my job there. Like the biggest project I work on was to help them launch the website for Kith Kids. So it was photograph, I think it was like a list of like 60 to 75 kid SKUs. Yeah. So that the site can launch like, you know, with a good amount of stuff on there. And it was cool like that. That was where I started to feel like, okay, I bring something to the table because they were like, you know, how do you want to do this? And I was like, yo, it's kid stuff. Yeah. We should shoot it on colored paper. Yeah. You know, like seamless paper, you know what I mean? Like white is always a clean look. And this is when Kith was doing everything outdoors. Right. So like for kids, let's clean it up. You know what I mean? And like dumb stuff, like would shoot like butter Tims on like a yellow, like kind of like a yellow paper. You know what I mean? Like Red Vans Authentics on red paper. This was when SpongeBob Vans came out. Like at one point. Shoot that on like yellow papers, blue papers and stuff. And they like loved it. And that's how the website launched originally, was all the different colors and stuff. And coming in and being like, okay, this is like your project. Like Tyler's doing this. This is only on you. You have to go pull the shoes. You got to shoot the shoes, you know, And like that when that launched, you know what I mean? That was like a big deal to me because I'd never been a part of like anything and like me myself like handled that. So again, like another like little like check in the box where you're like, all right, you know what I mean? Like I'm on my way. I'm like doing the right things, like making the steps. And so when I worked there, I was living upstate. Okay. So I lived upstate
and come down here.
I would take the train 2 hours each way. But I only worked part-time. Like, right? It was like kind of, they brought me in part-time. Let's see how it works. Like they knew I was living upstate. Like, let's see if this is like kind of takes the work off of Tyler and such. And it was like a very, very awesome experience, but I was also working retail at the time. So I worked Oakley. So like, bro, I was literally working 7 days a week. I would do.
That's crazy.
I was very, very fortunate because at that point, I had I was a seasoned retail associate. You know what I mean? Like it's like assistant managers, key holders, and stuff. And I brought enough to the table there, and like that people would work with me. You know what I mean? So when I worked at Oakley, I worked 4 days straight at Oakley, 3 days at Kith, like 7 days a week, like a grind. You know what I mean? And the manager, like I worked under 2 different managers at Oakland. They just both knew like what type of time I was on. And I would like to tell you that my passion like for what I was trying to do was very, very evident at that time. Like I was a hungry dude. Like I have a photo on my Instagram of me in Grand Central at like midnight on my birthday by myself, because I went to the city to shoot an Adidas event and just came home like by myself. I'm like on my birthday because I was like just like grinding, like really grinding.
Yeah.
Real random story, but going back a little bit, when I worked for Zoomies, that was like my job, like being a skateboarder, snowboarder. I was like, this is the world for me, like, right? So they, when you work there, and I don't know if they still do it, I got to imagine in some capacity they do, but they had this contest that they ran. It's called 100K. Basically, if you sold $100,000 worth of merchandise from January 1st to December 31st, they had this big ass trip that they took you on.
Wow. Okay.
Take you to at the time it was Keystone, Colorado.
I thought he was gonna say Key West. I was like,
it's like a 3-day trip, and you basically go out there, snowboard. They provide you with a pass and all this, and there's a big party, like right. So the first night you get there, there's like an employee only party. Like I think it's probably about like 1,000 people. It's a lot of people. But then the second night, like the second day, it's all like they bring in like all the brands that they sell. You can demo all the equipment and stuff. Like great time. You get to meet some pros and stuff. Like this was figure 08, 09, 010, like somewhere in there. Like JP Walker was like a huge snowboarder at the time. I remember meeting him and stuff. But then the second night, they do this big dinner and awards show. And basically, the people, like the top seller in the company gets hooked up. Like top 10, they give them all this stuff. Long story short, though, here, after that, they have this big ass party.
Yeah.
Never seen I don't think I've ever seen a party like this. But you got to figure, like, a lot of people might not know this, but like all these skate brands, most of them are owned by skateboarders. You know what I mean? So then they're sold, back in the day, they're sold in Zoomies. You know what I mean? So Zoomies taps in like, hey, you know how we like carry all your stuff? We need you to show up to a party for our employees. You know what I mean? And they do. Bro, the amount of people that I met at that party, like, and like not like fanboy, but like being so into skate and snowboard culture, I was like, oh, this is what I need to do with my life. I like a very bro, I was 19, 20 years old. So from there, it was like, okay, how do I like do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like how do this is where I feel the most at home. Like these are my peoples, you know what I mean? And slowly but surely, once I hit like the photography, and I got to shout out my guy. So he worked at Hypebeast, a dude named Robert Marshall, very, very good dude. But when I was on the photo thing, again, like I would like to tell you that people saw that I was hungry and working hard. So he was at Hypebeast at the time and hit me up. He's like, yo, you want to go to Agenda Miami and shoot for us? And I did. You know what I mean? It's like another experience, like all these experiences, like you just like pick up like, so much on the way. But that was the next experience where I was like, okay, this is like adjacent to like the 100K, like this is where I belong. You know what I mean? So, I guess that's kind of sideways from, but then you get into like Kith, you get these opportunities. You're like, okay, like, when did I feel like I like belong here? Like, you know what I mean? Like once I got at Kith and got like really rolling, I'm like, okay, this is like where I belong, So then, I knew someone that did marketing at Packer, and they had remodeled their store, and she's like, yo, we're having a party, like, with the, come down, pop up, say what up, and and meet some people here. So she had kind of, introduced me to some people there and was like, yo, we looking for someone to start shooting some apparel. We're bringing in more apparel brands. And it's like, all right, cool, like it would be part-time to start, I still was working at Oakley. So I was like, all right, cool. Like I can navigate like this, you know what I mean? And I did that about a week. And they're like, yo, our full-time guy, he's leaving. You want the full-time gig. This was probably October, like November, like maybe like late October, early November, but it's about to be the holiday season in retail. So I'm like, these people, like at the time was a dude named Sean. I was like, this dude has held it down for me so much. I'm like, yo, I'll take this job, but I can't take it till after the holidays. Because I'm like, yo, I can't leave this dude high and dry who has enabled me to kind of just chase after like what I'm trying to do, knowing that at some point I'm leaving him. You know what I mean? Like I'm a valuable member of the team, and like I'm just here till I'm not. You know what I mean? So to leave him in a bad spot. So long story short, like at the top of that next year, I started full time with Packer, and that was kind of what changed like my trajectory. Like obviously, like the Kith thing was cool and very, very like important. You know what I mean, for like my journey. But the Packer thing like really turned things up. Like Kith, like you tell people you worked at Kith and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's obviously like some level of like
there's a prestige behind it. Yeah, for sure.
I guess put it this way, as a photographer, be like, oh yeah, I did photography at Kith, and like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Like there's some sort of like association like with it, which is cool, you know what I mean? But like for me, I feel like I really, really like got my feet wet at Packer.
At Packer.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out Packer. I love Packer. I'm still mad I wasn't able to get those Iman Shumpert Crazy Eights, man.
The orange.
Yeah. I wanted them so bad. I wanted them so bad.
That's how I know you've been like, you're like really into shoes. I've been doing it like a minute, you know what I mean? Like obscure. You're just talking like obscure like collabs. You know what I mean?
Dude, I mean, I was talking to somebody on TikTok.
Before I forget, not to cut you off, shout out Packer. Those are my peoples. You know what I mean? I worked there. I would say, you know, we had a good run together. You know what I mean? Yeah, love them people over there. Good peoples.
But that's a good cutoff because I was going to end up going to a tangent, but I should ask you the last question that I ask everybody when they jump on, and it deals with a little bit of visualization. I want you to think back to when you were, I don't know, you said high school? You were in high school about to get those JPacks, right?
Yeah. Sometime in high school.
Yeah. And now you're you behind yourself, your younger self. What would you tell them as they open that box? As they open that pink Nike SB box?
Bring them back. Return them before, don't wear them. Nah. Man, that's a tough question. I mean, that's a great question, honestly, and it's funny because you're gonna laugh at me, but I'm just a very honest person, like right. So I go to therapy, and I'm always talking to my therapist about it, like, you know, the pressure I put on myself, like with like career goals and such, and I'm like, you know, sometimes it's like hard to like wake up and feel like I'm not doing enough because like what I have already feels like so much. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I guess that's irrelevant what I would tell like a little kid, but like I think about it, I'm like, I can't even like fathom, like, not that I'm like, I don't like big upping myself. That's never like my move. If people, if you know me, I'm not like that, but I guess I just wouldn't have imagined like this is like what I would do as an adult. You know what I mean? Even at 18 years old, like saying like, oh, you know what? Like I didn't end up going to like art, you know, like art school, but you'll end up becoming a self-taught photographer working with some of the brands you grew up loving. Yeah. Like I'll leave you with this one, like the Sweet Chick thing, like, right? Not a huge ordeal, like, right? Jamiersen hit me up. We want to shoot some food. Absolutely. Like, I'm always down for a new opportunity. But as a kid who grew up upstate, you know what I mean? Like, I remember my trips to the city. So I'll be married 6 years this September. Don't
get yelled at.
My birthday's in October. So no, our anniversary's in September. So you figure it was like 6 years ago then, long story short, my bachelor party, as a dude from upstate, you come to the city, you know what I mean? So I have pictures of me and the homies in Sweet Chick during my bachelor party, just like eating, you know what I mean? Again, like it's not, oh wow, but it's very cool. Awesome. Like it's a very, like very, very cool, like little, like full circle moment for me where I'm like, you know what I mean? Like these are the things that are like happening for me like now. So when I think about like big goals, like, you know what I mean? I have them. And there's definitely things I want to do and check off the list, but I'm like, yo, I could have never imagined that it would go as far as it has already. You know what I mean? So I literally tell myself and I'm gonna sound like a cornball, my therapist just all the time, like anything like additional now, it just feels like a plus. Yeah. Like it really, really does. And like I try to have that mentality of just gratitude. Like, right, like I said, like GOAT wasn't the most interesting job and like fulfilling job for me, but like I still was getting paid to shoot sneakers. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? That's not a bad day at work. You know, I'm not working in the heat construction or just doing something, like I said, like it can be monotonous, but I genuinely love it. Like what else would I rather be doing? Like photography for a different brand, you know what I mean? But like It's kind of like semantics. I'm getting paid to do what I love.
Right.
How bad is that?
Exactly. But let everybody know where they can find you.
At Jordan Kaiser on Instagram and at Jordan Kaiser on Twitter. That's it. No TikTok.
Yeah. If you're looking at some very well shot sneakers, you probably have shot them.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on the internet on some pages. You know.
Exactly. And then you know where to find me. I am Who Is Haas on all social medias. Follow the podcast on My First Kicks Pod. If you have a My First Kicks story, hit me up, please. I would love to read it to a guest. myfirstkickspod@gmail.com. And if you're listening to this, you're going to have to go onto the YouTubes, My First Kicks on YouTubes, because this has been an in-studio episode. And thank you so much for jumping on, Jordan. Of course,
man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yo, for real. And for everybody out there, you know what we say each week, wear your kicks.
Absolutely, bro. We got some heaters on.
Yeah, they got the heaters on.